So I finally did it. I used an Infinix phone for 1 week, and I must say I am quite impressed. But then there are some thoughts I have on the phone, and I would like to share it with you guys. So I'm Michelle Manuel, welcome to Tech Here. As I said in the beginning, I've used an Infinix phone, which is the 0X Pro, for 1 week, and here are my thoughts. So the first thing to know is that this is the best phone that Infinix has to offer. It's the most expensive phone in their lineup, and it puts out the best performance also in their lineup. So this knowledge gave me the lens to which I was using the phone, and it's the same lens to which I'm going to give this review. So here are the specs of the phone if we need them. You know I'm not a very big specs guy. What I think is important is the experience of using the phone. But if you really need the specs, here they are. I think they look interesting. There's some high-end specs there, and there are also some mid-range specs there. So I think it was a good balance to get the phone at that price. The second thing you need to understand about the phone is that this is a budget phone. The phone will cost around $300, which approximately is about 2,500 Ghana cedis. And for a phone at that price, which gives you this value, I think it was a very good deal. And I think most people would actually be able to afford it if they want to get a good enough phone. So if you're coming from something like an iPhone 13 or stuff, look, this phone is not up to that level, and so you have to lower expectations when you're going to get this phone, because it's not going to give you the performance of the $1,000 phones. Those phones are expensive for a reason. This phone is built to be affordable. The third thing you need to understand about the phone is that this phone was made with a compromise. It was made with a couple of trade-offs. And to get the phone at that price, they needed to make these trade-offs. They needed to make this compromise. So at the end of the day, what you need to understand is that these compromises, do I need them? Can I live with these compromises? And these are the compromises we are going to go through in this video. So what features did they compromise on, and what other features did they not compromise on? I think one of the things they didn't compromise on was the display. I was really impressed with the display. It comes with a 120Hz AMOLED screen, which for the most part is what is inside the high-end phones like the Samsungs and the iPhones. And even though it might not be up to par with those, it was pretty close. I was really impressed. Dark blacks, it was very colorful. It was also feeling really fast because of the 120Hz display. I must say I was really impressed.
No matter how good you are, if you stay for too long, you spoil it. A good
Must that's it.
And that's the problem of the phone. When I heard, I just panicked as soon as I heard. But you know, I can never panic like Titanic.
The phone also felt really fast because of the 120Hz display, and these are features that you actually mostly find in the high-end phone. So I'm quite happy that they were able to manage to squeeze it into this budget phone. And to be honest, I think the display, nobody would have a problem with it. It was pretty good. I think I just had one quip with it. It was just a little bit too colorful for my liking, and this is just a personal preference. On my daily driver, which is the OnePlus 7 Pro, they give you the option to choose a saturated option and a less saturated option. And because I do a lot of photo editing, I would like to have a more realistic view of how the pictures and stuff look like. So I prefer it to be less saturated. But for most people I showed it to, they said it looked gorgeous, and I think most people enjoy the display to be more saturated. And it's not overly saturated, to be honest. It's quite good. I think the display is a very good one, and Infinix did not compromise on that aspect. The second thing they didn't compromise on was the performance. And usually for budget phones, performance is one of the easiest things they could compromise on, and I was actually really surprised. The phone comes with a processor which is the MediaTek Helio J95, and from what's out there, it's actually one of the better performing chips in the budget range. So if you're going for a budget phone, this is probably one of the best chips you're going to get at that price. So I think in my use of the phone, I was pretty impressed. It didn't lag on me. Opening apps was fast. If you also have things in the RAM, it will open up quickly when you reopen them. And also it comes with an 8GB RAM, so I don't think you have a problem on that side. And it also comes with a 256GB storage, which I think is more than enough for most people. So in the performance that I think Infinix really did a good job, and they did not compromise on the performance, which is good to hear at that price point. The third thing they didn't compromise on was the design, and I don't think I have to talk much on it, but you take a look at this. This phone is beautiful. I don't know, it just It looks really good, and I'm really happy they didn't compromise on that aspect as well. It has the golden edges and then the vegan leather back. It's not plastic, it's not glass, it feels like leather. but it also doesn't feel like leather. The camera bump is big, but then what phone in this 2022 doesn't have a big camera bump, especially the high-end phones? So this phone really looks nice, and I'm also very happy that the phone does not compromise on the design. The first thing the phone didn't compromise on was the battery. The battery doesn't look big, it's 4500 milliamp hours, which is more or less in the range of modern phones today. But then I was actually pretty surprised. It lasted me throughout the whole day, and if you know me, I use my phone 100% brightness almost every time, and for most of my use I was able to take the phone throughout an entire day without needing to charge at the end of the day, which I think is pretty impressive at that price point. Once again, I think Infinix also did not compromise on the battery. And the final thing I think they didn't compromise on was the accessories. Most phones nowadays, especially those which are expensive in the $1,000 range, they keep removing things from the box. I don't get it. You buy a phone now, it's just the phone, right? Very soon I feel like they will even remove the screen and you have to buy the screen as a separate price, and I don't get it. I just don't get it. But Infinix was kind enough to have a lot of things inside the box. When you open the box, you see the headphone jack, you see a 45-watt charger, which I must say also charges very fast. So 45-watt charger, the charging cable as well. It also comes with the Infinix earphones. It also comes with the screen protector already installed, although it's just the rubber ones, but also it's good to have because it prevents scratches. It also comes with the case, which I can't say that for most of the high-end phones. So for what comes in the box, I think they've really done what they did not compromise on the accessories you need to make the phone an enjoyable experience. But I think that's about it in the things they did not compromise on. Now let's come to the things they compromise on. I think one thing most of you asked that I've not mentioned is the camera. I do think Infinix compromised on the camera, which is expected. In using this phone, I didn't expect the camera to blow my mind, overwhelm me, and I think it just did that. It didn't blow my mind, it didn't overwhelm me. It was what I expected, right? So here's how I describe the camera. There are certain situations where it works well in, and other situations where it's quite bad in. For it to work well, you need to have a lot of light, like outdoor, morning, afternoon kind of light. So I wouldn't advise you to take a lot of pictures indoors because it doesn't have a lot of light. And don't even think of using it at night because that one is a no. I wish the main camera was a little bit zoomed in and the focal length was a little bit tighter, because portrait mode shouldn't exist on this phone at all. There is no dynamic range whatsoever. And the same for the wide angle, there are no details. The telephoto looks like everybody has done makeup as well. So all in all, the main camera is quite good if you have a lot of light, especially when you're outdoors. Apart from that ideal situation, every other thing is not. Now as for video, here's what I'll say. Unless you are taking video just for memories, do not open the video camera at all. I rest my case. So here's how the 1080p 30 frames per second looks like on the Zero X Pro. Let me know what you think. I have a strong feeling there is no details in the class because I know the dynamic range for this one is not too good, as I mentioned. So let me know what you think. Next up we have the 4K. So here's how the 4K 30 frames per second looks like. Let me know what you think and how it also sounds. It also comes with a zoom feature which advertises a 60x zoom, which they claim could take a picture of the moon. It can't take a picture of the moon, but it's more or less what you are seeing from here, just on your screen, right? It's not like it's going to see if there's a rock on the moon or not. You can't really pinpoint any details in the moon. I mean, even the high-end cameras can't do that, so I didn't expect it to do that as well. But the zoom feature comes in handy when you want to view text which is far away. So for instance, I need to view maybe a number on a signboard. I'm standing far off. I can really zoom in, and the 60x zoom comes in really handy. But that was about the only thing I really enjoy about the camera. Almost every other thing was just mid. The next thing they compromised on was something I like to call the little things. So things like haptics, things like speaker quality, things like fingerprint sensor speed. These are the little things that if you go for the high-end phones, you would see them, you feel them. If you use the high-end Samsung like the Galaxy S22 Ultra, if you use the Pixel 6 Pros, if you use the iPhone 13, you realize that when you're scrolling through a list of menus or something, the haptics gives you a feel of like a hardware scrolling, which feels really good. The vibration motors of the high-end phones are also pretty good, but this one didn't have it. And again, I didn't expect it. They had to compromise at a point. So I think this was actually a good place they could compromise on. The speakers also were not too impressive. I compared it to my daily driver, which was the OnePlus 7 Pro, and again, it was not up to par. Even though I think the OnePlus 7 Pro had more room for improvement, this phone couldn't reach up to the standard of that one. So in terms of the speakers too, it was a little bit mid. But I mean, I think you might get away with it because it has a very good display, but the speakers really aren't that good, you know. And also the fingerprint sensor speed, it was alright. It was just about the same as the OnePlus 7 Pro fingerprint sensor speed, which was not too impressive. It was just okay. It was not too fast. If you go in for the high-end phones, you realize that click on it is fast. But again, the high-end phones cost $1,000. This phone costs $300. They are not in the same price category, and you cannot expect them to perform the same way. So I think the final thing they compromised on was the software. Now this would be a personal preference. I, for one, didn't think the software experience was up to par. But then there were a lot of things that were going for it that I think were pretty interesting. One of them that I found quite funny was the charging. When you're charging it right, you could turn on the feature where if you remove the charger, it will sound an alarm till you put it off. And if you put your fingerprint inside, or you unlock it. And I think for people in schools and colleges and stuff, if people like using your charger, you could put in that feature, and then if your friend comes to steal your charger, you could just do it to sound the alarm to unless the person knows your passcode or your fingerprint. I really think it was funny when I moved my charger and I saw that it was alarming till I did that. It was quite interesting. I laughed at myself. But there was quite an interesting feature that they had. But then for the most part, it was just hit or miss. There were a lot of bloatware on it, and that's expected. Companies who create software, so companies who create games, they will pay these budget phones to have their apps pre-installed on it so that they can keep the price down. And so I expected there to be bloatware. If you buy the phone, there are so many pre-installed apps which you may not use, and that will take up space. And I personally, I feel like they just spoil the experience. But again, if you don't like them, can ignore them. It's not really a big deal. I think it's better to have a lot of options than to not have the options at all. So some people might enjoy them, some people might not enjoy them. Just that it's taking up space, I think, in my opinion. But anyway, that was also it. And also finally, I think the interface, the way it looks, it was just, maybe I'm used to stock Android, but the interface was just not appealing enough. But I think a number of people enjoy it, and it copied some things from iPhone, which again, I said copying is a very good thing once you do it well. I think to some extent they did quite well with the software, but personally it's not my preference. But I feel like most people won't have a problem with it. It's fine. It's just okay. Yes, the bloatware is too much, but it's okay. So what's my conclusion? Again, I think this phone is all about compromise. So I've mentioned a number of compromises and a number of things they didn't compromise on. So I think what you should do is take a look at the list. Here are the things that they compromised on. Here are the things they didn't compromise on. Which one is of value to you? If you look at the list that they didn't compromise on, and you think these are the only things that are necessary or important to you, then I think you can go in for this phone. But if you look at the list that they compromised on, and you think that these things are absolutes and you have to live with them, you have to have them, like the camera, like the little things, like the software. If these things are really important to you, then you can decide to skip this phone and buy a slightly more expensive phone. The Pixel 4 is about $100 to $200 more expensive, which is fine. But if you think that these things that they compromised on is not really important to you, and these things that they didn't compromise on is more important to you than these, then I think this phone is a steal. I think it's very good, especially at that $300 price point. I think really you can't get a lot of phones that give you this much value at this price. So I think that's my review of the Infinix Zero X Pro. I think it's a really good phone, and as I mentioned, if you don't care about the compromises, then I think this phone is for you. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment and subscribe. If you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? There's so much new content coming over the next few weeks, and I wouldn't like you to miss. So please subscribe, like, share with friends and family, and let's build a tech-based Africa together. So until next time, I'm Michelle Manuel, and I'll see you